Hey, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Writer's Bookshelf. So today we're going to do our final entry for our character development series. This is going to be another thesaurus by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. I'm never going to get her name right. Again, Becca, I'm sorry if you're watching this. I'm trying so hard, but it's not coming out right. But this is our final entry for character development thesauruses. It's not the final thesaurus entry that we'll cover. I'll talk more about that near the end here, or if not the end when we get to it. But this week's episode is going to be on the Occupation Thesaurus. And this is, if you're keeping score, as of this recording, this is their most recent thesaurus released in paperback. They do have a particular order in which they release them. And again, each thesaurus connects to each other in a networking kind of way. So if you get one, you should get them all because they all will help each other in some form, and they also inform each other. Depending on what you're looking for. But you may be wondering why you even need an occupation thesaurus. I mean, if your character, let's say a firefighter, then, you know what firefighters do, right? They fight fire. They get in their truck, they go woo, woo, woo. They slide down poles, and, they watch movies when there's nothing to do, and, that's a firefighter's life. We all know it, right? Well, do we really know it well? And more importantly is, do we know how a character who takes that kind of job might have personal experience with fire, or do we know what reasons they might want to take that job? And then do we know enough about the job to make it authentic and believable? Well, if we just think firefighters only slide down poles and play with Dalmatians, we might not quite know the job as well as we think we do. So the Occupation Thesaurus, it does follow the same format that all the others do, where it opens with your essays that help you define what the job is and why you need it. So you have careers that characterize, you have jobs as sources of tension and conflict, and so on. It's worth reading through these sections in order to get a feel for what the job is and, again, why you're developing it. But it's also good for backstory. If your character does have a particular type of job, it's very likely that that character had that job even before the story began. So knowing what they're dealing with will help you find who that character is. And again, if you go through the One Step for Writers character developer, you're going to have an option to be able to select the occupational type, through the thesaurus entry. So you'll have many resources at your disposal to help you kind of cross-network your ideas so that you have a well-rounded character who's accessible and easy to define. But anyway, this book, it follows the same format as all the others. Once you read your essays, you're going to probably go through the index to find out what the different jobs are and see if any of them connect. Also, if you have one that's not on here but you want to learn more about it, it's first of all worth it to go look at their online dictionary to see if they've added a few, because they do every so often add in new entries after the book's been printed. So and I think this one in particular does have a couple of those examples. I think there's 5, at least last I checked. I think there's 5 on the online dictionary that are not in the book. So you can compare notes if you go to, even if you don't own the book, but if you go to Amazon's look inside and look at their index, and then go to the website at One Stop Writers and look at the online index, you can compare to see which ones are not represented in the paperback. But for the most part, you're going to get primarily the same entries. And then the other thing to remember, I touched on this a little bit at the end of my last video, is that this particular entry is unique in that they actually they outreach to the community of their of some of the reading public, and those who have, obviously we're not all writers. Some of us are florists, some of us are hairstylists, some of us are I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that were on there. Brista's in the book. There's a few other types of jobs that we might have as our main career, that where we might write on the side. And so Ackerman and Puglisi, they actually allowed an invitation for people in specialized fields to give their own entries. So what they did is they gave them the categories to work from, and then fill in the blanks to help define the attributes of those particular jobs. So if you go to the website and search for it, you can find an additional, I think, 15 or 20 entries that users have submitted. And so this goes back to the principle of developing your own database, where if you have a job that you work at that's not represented in the book, it's not a bad idea to populate your industry, like the attributes for your industry, in the same type of format that they provide, as a way to expand the options that you have to develop your character, or help others develop their characters. So this is where I think being part of that community is really useful. So I know this whole series is about the books, but in this particular set, I think getting involved in the community is important, because you really do help each other out. So that said, let's go ahead and look at what's in here. So now today's entry is Dog Groomer. That's our random flip through for the day. And again, as usual, I'll tell you what some of the others are. When we get to the end, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything key here. One thing of note is that by the time we get to the Occupation Thesaurus, a lot of the writer's tips have gone away. So in earlier books, you had writer's tips and things that gave you a little extra oomph. This one does seem to be more consistent with just focusing on the topic at hand, but that's fine. It's worth handling. But just so you know, it's in here. You have the overview of what the job is. So for dog groomer, they say dog groomers maintain a canine's physical appearance using various shears, trimmers, scissors, brushes, shampoos, and other products. They will wash, dry, cut, and shape a dog's coat to the specifications of the owner. Other grooming duties include trimming nails, brushing their teeth, cleaning their ears, and looking for illnesses or problems such as swelling, sores, thrush ticks, or other parasites. Some groomers may offer additional services such as fur dyeing and designer cuts. Groomers typically work at shelters, kennels, pet stores, in a mobile unit, or out of their own homes. Some may also practice out of a larger veterinary clinic that serves many pet owners. So right there, you already have an idea of what the pet groomer needs in order to do his job, and then where he'll go to do it. So just in the overview alone, you already have a pretty good idea of what your character should and should not be doing. So, of course, you could subvert the trend a little bit. Maybe you want your pet groomer to be isolated on a mountaintop. Maybe what he actually does is doesn't groom dogs. Maybe he grooms goats or mountain lions. I don't know. And if your book is about a mountain lion groomer who lives on a mountainside, and his tools of choice may be if he doesn't have electricity, maybe he uses sharpened rocks or something. Leave a comment in the comments below and tell us where we can find your book, because why not? We always want to have something unique. But if you don't want to be weird, if you want to just do something that's identifiable, dog groomer, people know what a dog groomer is. Anyone who owns a dog has probably visited one, so they can probably already get a feel for what that environment looks like. So it'll be easy to make that authentic, just because you might have experience with it. So the next category is necessary training. So this is important because this is your character's background. Most groomers will need a high school diploma to work in this field. In addition to on-the-job training and mentoring, employees may also require a certification from a recognized grooming school or post-secondary school apprentice program. So if your character, let's say, is it's like Catch Me If You Can, if you've ever seen that movie, I think it's based on a real-life character who posed as an airline pilot, if I remember correctly. Now, he was competent. He was able to do the job. Problem was he wasn't licensed. He wasn't educated. He conned his way into the job, but he still managed to do it. But he conned his way in, and so he wasn't legit, and that was why he got into trouble. Clearly, with necessary training, your character needs to have qualifications to be a credible employee for that job. And so if they don't have that requisite background, that might be a source of conflict. If you have, let's say, Cruella de Vil comes in to get her Dalmatian groomed, and your dog groomer does not have the proper qualifications, Cruella de Vil is not going to be very happy. And Cruella de Vil, she's not a nice person. So there's the things that you can probably use to your advantage to really create the catalyst for your story, or a subplot that makes your character have a harder time with what's going on at home, whatever. So it's worth knowing that the requirements as a means to create more conflict. Useful skills, talents, or abilities. So a knack for making money away with animals, basic first aid, charm, empathy, and so on. These are things that by having these skills, your character is probably going to do a better job. It's worth noting that skills and attributes, skills and talents, is a separate thesaurus category, but it's on their site only. It's not a book yet. It might become a book, it might not, I don't know. But they do have a section on their website for skills and talents. If you're a subscriber to their site, you can access that right now. And I'm sure you're going to find some of these on there. Like charm and empathy is probably on there, I'm guessing. Don't hold me to it. You can go look it up. But I'm just saying that one of the things that they have in common with these books is each book can connect to another book via the different sources. But be aware that in the case of those that aren't printed yet, you might still have a connection through the online source. And on the online, they're going to have the hyperlink connection, so you can probably click directly on those traits to get a better sense of what's on there. And if you right-click and open a new window, it's even better, because then you can look across and see things. But just bear that in mind. Same thing with the next one is helpful character traits. So they have adaptable, affectionate, calm, centered. You know the drill. If you've seen my other videos on the sources, you're going to see those same entries. So this is another way of which you can refer back to those previous entries. And by now, too, you should figure out that if you get only the Occupation Thesaurus and not the others, some of these may not help you. Some of these entries may not be useful to you because you don't have that reference to the other books. So I'm going to say it again, as I've been saying before, is don't get just one, get them all. Because you're going to want the ability to connect through each one. If you do want to find out more about how an affectionate trait will help your dog groomer, then you need to go look up affectionate in the other book to see explicitly how that might play out in their profession. Okay. Sources of friction. So developing an allergy to dogs or grooming products, a fellow groomer who's suddenly quitting, leaving the character with too many clients to handle, demanding pet owners, not demanding they do something, but pet owners who are demanding, who expect perfection, request difficult cuts, etc., dogs that are unsocial and difficult to work with, and so on. Again, these are things where if they show up in your book, you're going to have natural conflict up here. And what is a story without conflict? It's not a story. So these are things you can use also to your advantage when you're developing not only your character through his profession, but if you're using the profession as a source of developing the story. Conflict, you have something to go to really complicate the task. And I mean, how interesting would it be to be a dog lover who's allergic, or the only job you can get is grooming a dog, but you're allergic? Like, that would suck. Not for the reader. It'd be awesome for the reader, but it would suck for the character. People they might interact with. So dog owners, pet sitters, pet store employees, or veteran staff if located within a pet store or pet clinic. Other groomers and delivery people is an example of that. About 12 years ago now, or a little over 11 years ago, I was working at a place called the Picture People. It was a photo studio, and one of the things that we had is an affiliate program with Petco. And so I was on the team that, I went on weekends to do pet photography, and we did it at the store. And, it's okay. I mean, you get to go around and, play with animals that people brought in, because that's the nice thing about Petco is the dogs are as much of a customer as the people are. So people bring their dogs in, or sometimes they're cats. Sometimes they're iguanas. Again, I live in Florida. People have pet iguanas in Florida. Somebody brought in a pet snake once. But, whatever they bring in, we would take pictures of them. But one of the departments in the pet store was the groomer. So a lot of people, they came in to get their dogs groomed, and then maybe they might get their photo taken after the grooming is done. So these are things that would sometimes happen. If your character's a dog groomer, they might interact with a pet photographer. I don't know. It's something I don't think it ended up working out. It was one of those things where, it really helps to do it twice to make sure. Don't do it once and assume it's good. Do it twice to make sure it sticks. They should have done it twice. They didn't. It cost them a lot of money. I don't think they're around anymore. Anyway, there's a little extra for you. How this occupation might impact the character's needs. So you have esteem and recognition. Is this something that's consistent? So what they're actually giving here is, it looks like they're giving the hierarchy of needs. And there is, if it's not this book, it might have been the emotional wounds. They actually had a triangle. Oh no, it's this one here. They actually do have a section on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you will want to reiterate to this pyramid if you're going to use this book, because they're going to reiterate how this particular job addresses the hierarchy. So they have the esteem and recognition for this one, love and belonging, and safety and security are the three that this job might help with. So for esteem and recognition, they say characters in this job may feel they are not being valued by others, since some customers may only see the price tag and don't appreciate the time and energy that goes into caring for the pet. For love and belonging, it says in some cases groomers can be overloaded with appointments, and the long hours and tiring work can leave little energy for loved ones, causing resentment. And then safety and security, this job doesn't pay particularly well, making financial security hard to obtain unless other members of the household are also contributing. So if you're, if you have your character single and lives, lives alone in a flat or, a studio apartment, depending on where they live, and maybe they can handle it, maybe they can't. If they live in a place where the rent's really cheap, it might be fine. But if they live in New York City as a pet groomer, that might be really challenging. They might have to take a loan out every week in order to live. So there's things to consider in that. So it gives you an opportunity to see what the needs are. And again, if you use all the books, at some point you can probably cross-reference the emotional traits with the hierarchy if you're really clever. But when you do your character planning, it doesn't hurt to write the stuff down and chart it. But use the books as a means in which to chart, so that you're never too lost in what you're doing. Speaking of pets, I have a cat clawing at my door right now. Not a dog though, a cat. So tearing at my door. Yes, I hear you. No, you're not coming down. Owning pets is a lot of fun. Twisting the fictional stereotype. So anyone involved with animals tends to be portrayed as nurturing, kind-hearted, and maybe a little quirky. But what about a surly and antisocial dog groomer who chose the job because of a social or mental difficulty? An overwhelmed one who is so focused on their own problems that they have no extra time or effort to share even with a dog, or a cruel character who might have chosen the profession for nefarious reasons. Relative help. Occupations can be useful for characterizing or hinting a backstory and defining motivation, so utilize this information to avoid stereotypes. So that's one way, if you are trying to craft something interesting, that section is really great to use as a resource. And again, you might not actually do that, but it gives you an opportunity to use it as a springboard to think of other things you might do instead. Another stereotype might be, if you're doing a sci-fi setting, maybe your dog groomer is a time traveler. Who knows? There's other ways you can kind of imagine that character's job in situations that are not standard. So it's a good way to increase your imagination. Then the last section is characters who might choose this profession because they, and then fill in the blank. And so they might choose it because they love animals, especially dogs. They find animals easier to read and be around than people due to negative past experiences. Mistrust people who find it easier to bond with dogs, and so on. So, just like all the other books, they do give you a wide range of options you can use to draw from in order to create your character, the character's backstory. And then the thing about this particular book that the others may not necessarily work as well for is you can technically use this in the progress of writing your book. So if your character is a dog groomer, and if you've forgotten what dog groomers do, you'll come back to draw from the information here in order to develop a scene in the book, so that your scene is authentic. So your dog groomer is not throwing scissors at customers or whatever. That might not play well to the traits that they have. So these are things to consider. Again, you can always subvert expectations in your own unique way, but it's like anything else. It's good to know. It's nice to learn what you need to know in order to understand that character to the best of your ability, so that you can create somebody who is authentic and who knows the job and so on. And again, if your job of choice is not in the book, you might want to go look at their website to see if others have contributed entries, or go out and research. You have topics you can draw from. Go out and ask experts, like how would a character reflect this particular type of job if they had it. If you have, let's say, a cat farmer, or a cat wrangler. What's the series? Is it cat wrangler, cat ranger? I don't know. The one who herds cats. Like, what's that job look like? Well, you're not going to find it in the book. It's a fake job. But what if you made it a real job? A cat herder would have to have a lot of patience, because if you deal with cats, you know that they're neurotic. They like to scratch at doors, and if you have more than one, it compounds. So anyway, that said, just a quick overview of the table of contents. Again, this is where your list of occupations will be. I mean, you've got, I think it's over 100 different occupations in here, or it might be at 100. But some examples are actor, air traffic controller, animal rescue worker, animal trainer, antiques dealer, architect, auto mechanic, and so on. I always like to do the first letter. But you can go to Amazon, look inside, and see the entire list of trades, or you can go on the website at One Stop and see what else they offer. Again, the One Stop is going to offer a few more categories that the book won't have, and that's true of most of the topics, because they do occasionally add new ones to the thesaurus online that won't make it, like, after the print has gone out, and they don't update their books unless it's something like Emotion Thesaurus, where it's like an entire wellspring of new entries, in which case they justify having a second edition. But most of their books don't have second editions. So when you buy it, you're going to be buying a fixed version, but you should also have enough information here in order to really craft a compelling character. So I do recommend you get all the thesaurus. There's two more that they have that I didn't cover yet that I will in a few weeks. They're based on settings, and when we get to the settings section, I'll talk more about those. But as you can see, like, all these books, they connect to each other. So leaving one on the table, I don't recommend. I think you should get them all if you're going to get any. And if you do commit yourself to the subscription, that's fine. You will get more entries. Again, I'm not a big fan of doing things strictly online, because then you have to log in, and it's a lot of extra work. Whereas if you just have it on your shelf, you pull it out real quick, do a quick reference. If you have more than one book, you can cross-reference accordingly. That may not be conducive to your workflow, and that's fine. But it's just important to know that they're out there. And even if you don't get the books themselves, you still want to have access to the thesaurus, because they really do help you inform your characters in an authentic way. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. It also inflames the imagination. If you combine a character who's got so many positive traits balanced with so many negative traits, who has certain emotional tics, or who has to deal with a certain emotion that's amplified by a certain chemical, for example, like in the emotions amplifier. We didn't cover that, but there's like something on alcoholism, where if you're an alcoholic, may have increased or inflamed emotions, and so this is what it looks like when the emotions amplified by that particular situation. And they happen to be on a job, grooming dogs. And when we get to the settings, later on, maybe they're in the back of a bar or whatever. These are things that you can work them all together in order to composite a compelling character. Bring in their emotional wound. What background situation is going to make their journey difficult? What motivations do they have in order to make this journey worth reading? And then some of the other ones, right now they're doing the relationship thesaurus. So how do they respond to other character types, and how when you have like the parent and child relationship, how do they relate to each other? And go back and review like some of the past thesaurus entries that they've done. They have other categories that are all really worth investigating. I wish my memory was stronger. I'd tell you what the others were that I find compelling. They did, what was the one before relationships? It was conflict. They had the conflict thesaurus. So different situations that might cause internal conflict. I mean, it's such a wide range of things that are worth investigating in order to really bring your characters to life. I highly recommend their resources, whether you get the paperbacks or their subscription. I mean, if you're a serious writer, and if you want your readers to really dig into your characters and your situations and the storylines you've created, I don't think you should pass this one up. Definitely look into their resources, and if you get the subscription, make use of their character builder. Again, I haven't done it myself, because I'm not like I'll review the software on here, but I to actually use them for myself. I do have I'm pretty patterned. Like I'm a creature of habit, and my habits are typically to explore and then research as I go, which is, I mean, my books might betray that. It's for you to judge, and you can tell me if you feel that way. If you happen to read my books, which you should, because that'll support my channel and it'll help me, pay for things. But even if not, we all have our ways of approaching our stories. So whatever your way is, pick what works best for you. But I definitely think, if nothing else, at least try this out. See if this is something that will help you. Because what if it does? What if by checking out these sources, you've just improved your game by 100%? Your readers will probably thank you for it. Everything that you have at your disposal that makes your writing more authentic and accurate is worth having and worth investing in. So give them a look at. As far as this is the point where I want to break the season up just a little bit, just to get make room for other videos, and also to help me catch up on my reading. So our next block is going to be based on settings. There'll be a couple entries on that, and then after that, I want to get into, I think, the conflict stuff. Now, the conflict is tricky because I don't really have any books on conflict yet. The only one that I own is from 2004, and I don't think it's cheap anymore, so I don't really want to recommend that one. There's a couple I have my eye on that I want to go pick out probably this week, and I want to make sure I have the time to read them. I'm probably only going to have time to do one this season. There's two I want to do, but I don't think I'm going to have time to do both. So I may save the other one for next season or a bonus episode for later this season. But that's a couple more things coming, and then past that, there's a few more things we're going to do before we get to the end of the season. But I want to make sure that I have time to get to all that. So the next week or two may be something other than the Writer's Bookshelf. If you're looking for it, it will be back. It's coming back. It's just there's a good chance I won't have an episode for you next week. And if I do have one next week, then there'll be a break after the settings. There's going to be a break at some point. It's going to be about at least 1 week of a break, maybe two. So just be aware of that. But we will be right back. We're not going to take a break for long. So just so you know. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things that YouTubers tell you to do. You can support me and my channel by buying my books. Again, jeremybursey.com. By now, the website should be live, and if not, it will be soon. And if not, then I really need a better web service. So, because I don't think it's going to take me much longer to fix it up. But anyway, that's all for now. Don't forget to let me know what you think of the series, and if you have suggestions for books you want to see in the future, make sure you let me know too. I do have plans for each season, so it may still be a while before I get to your book. If you're the author of a book, the only requirement is that your book is vetted. So I like to make sure that it's from a trusted resource. Doesn't mean I won't look at it if you're self-published. Again, these are self-published, but they've been vetted. They have the trusted sources. So I do want to make sure that your source is trusted. So it needs to have some reviews on there at the very least before I'll review it. But other than that, yeah. Let me know. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.